All right, so in this video, we are going to talk about what happens when we go through a phase change. So if we melt something, if we boil something, if we freeze something. So what are the energy changes associated when that happens? So when a substance changes state of matter, so if it melts, it evaporates, that energy that you're putting into the substance actually goes into breaking something called intermolecular forces. So there are forces that hold molecules together in a substance. So they're attracted to each other. So when it melts, if it boils, that energy that you're putting into the substance is used to break those forces of attraction and then push the molecules further away. So when you go through a phase change, and let's say that you're measuring the temperature, you're actually not going to see the temperature change as we're going through the phase change. So this is what it actually looks like if I were to take a substance, if I take water and I heat it up. So when I take ice, so initially when I take ice and then I apply heat over time, this is what it looks like. You notice that it doesn't look like a straight linear line. So I don't have a line that goes like this with the temperature going up and up and up as time goes on. So I actually have these places where the line is completely flat and the temperature is not changing. Now, so let's look at the process of going through these phase changes. So right here at the very bottom, I'm at a very cold temperature. So I'm starting as a solid. So you notice the temperature is increasing here. So what's happening is I have a solid at this point, and I am adding energy, and that changes the kinetic energy. So anytime that you measure temperature, you're actually measuring the kinetic energy of a substance, so the energy associated with movement. So as I heat the substance up in the very beginning, the kinetic energy is increasing, and then all of a sudden I get to zero. Well, at zero, something starts to happen. I'm actually going to be melting that substance. So at that point, I am melting the ice. It's going through a phase change. So the temperature is not changing because now I'm changing the potential energy. So the energy that I'm adding as I heat it is just getting applied to breaking those intermolecular forces and pulling the water molecules away from each other. So at the 0 degrees, that is my melting point. Now it's also my freezing point. It just depends on what you're doing to energy as to what's happening. So are you taking energy out or are you putting energy in? Now, once I get to this point right here, well, I am no longer a solid, I am a liquid. So the liquid is getting heated up and the temperature is changing here because I'm increasing my kinetic energy until I get to 100 degrees Celsius. Well, at 100 degrees Celsius, water starts to boil. So I will be boiling the water here, and then after I have completely boiled the water, then I have gas, and then the temperature can start to increase again. So with these kind of graphs, they could ask you what state of matter you have. It could ask you where you're going through a phase change. It could also ask you for the actual boiling point or melting point or freezing point. Okay. Now, with temperature change, there's a change in kinetic energy. That depends on something called the specific heat capacity. So every substance has a unique specific heat capacity, which is the amount of energy it takes to heat that substance by 1 degree. And that's going to be an intensive property. Now, and during a phase change, there's a change in potential energy. So the temperature is not changing here because we're changing the potential energy, not the kinetic. Okay, so something else to note. Okay, endothermic and exothermic process. Well, when we're talking about those terms, we're talking about whether we're releasing energy or we're putting energy into a system. So if a substance is being melted or if you're boiling it, you're adding energy to make that happen. You have to heat it up to make a substance melt or to make it boil. That's an endothermic process which absorbs energy. When you take a substance and you freeze it or you condense it back to a liquid, that's actually an exothermic process. You're taking energy away from it. So you have to take energy out of those substances to make it condense or make it freeze.